Hunter Womack. This is the discussion on Module 11. Family violence can often contain two main elements: intimacy and the care relationship. Speak about the variations this appears in the family. I think that studying this form of violence could be extremely beneficial because it is necessary to see this issue from both sides of the argument. It is not only women who are victims of mental, emotional, and physical abuse in these intimate relationships that are care-based. I think that this information could be used for more education and awareness of what exactly this type of violence can do to impact not only abusers and victims, but also the children in these types of relationships. Cohen states that there can be a myriad of issues that can relate to how these manifest in the relationship between the two parties of abuser and victim. He refers to the fact that trying to put a definition to family violence can be a task clouded with ambiguity. He states that the word violence can be varied in meaning from intimidation to threats to actual physical harm. I will be candid when I speak on this subject because I have personal experience with this issue. I was in an extremely toxic situation during the last few years of my marriage, and that was due to my reaction to the mental and emotional abuse I received from my ex-wife. The outcomes of certain situations during that time are what allows me to have a better perspective on what it's like to go through a violent relationship and then heal from it. There are clear patterns that appear in child abuse and neglect. How does corporal punishment play a role? I think that child abuse and neglect can happen and does happen due to the specific patterns that occur in the home. I think that the environment and the relationship between the adults that are around the children play a significant role in whether abuse or neglect is present. I think that the other pattern that can and does become apparent is in situations of split parenting. One parent blames the other for being responsible or irresponsible when it comes to the care of the child. Cohen states that the child abuse and neglect occur in situations where parents do not care for their children. This action results in the subsequent harm of their emotional or physical well-being. He states that some of the ways that this occurs are through the lack of medical care, personal hygiene, and their ability to be clothed and provided with nourishment. In talking about corporal punishment, I have direct life experience with that subject as well. I was raised in a family that had a militant style of discipline from my father. I was often the recipient of a backhand to the mouth or a belt when I spoke with disrespect or out of turn. I chose not to do that type of punishment with my children at all due to how it made me feel as a child in that situation. Intimate partner violence is far-reaching and complex. Speak to the context of and who is at risk the most. I think that the context of intimate partner violence has to do with a sense of control or dominance by one member or another. Violence is a pattern and a very poor coping mechanism for conflict resolution. I think that there are far-reaching consequences for this type of violence that can traumatize an individual or children where these actions are taking place. Cohen states that there are several categories that are contextually relevant to intimate partner violence. The first is violence in the couple that is common. This does not escalate to attacks or severe injuries. The next is terrorism on an intimate level, used as a means of control or psychological manipulation of a victim. The last is resistance to violence that may or may not be in self-defense, depending on the situation. I have personally had to deal with terroristic violence and resisted when I was accosted by my ex-wife. I was mentally and emotionally in a state of unrest all the time. To deal with this abuse, I chose to go back to alcohol and other chemicals, and that only made the situation more volatile. I made the choice to defend myself, and the situation presented that as a response. This led to a host of other problems, and that culminated in a divorce. Feminist perspectives require us to call into question the structures of control and most often challenge male domination in our institutions, such as politics, religion, and government. Envision these institutions where equality was truly obtained and how that would impact violence. I think that with the feminist perspective, in response to male domination, that men are more likely to be violent towards women. I also think that this statement does not exclude women who can inflict the same amount of violence on men. I also think that with systematic abuse that it does occur more in relationships and within families, which has led to legal reforms on this specific issue. Cohen states that there are several areas that feminist perspective may be applied in society. One is male domination when it comes to the perpetuation of violence. The next is systematic abuse as it applies to rape and sexual assault. Lastly, Cohen references religious authority, which he speaks to male domination leading to the sexual abuse scandal in the Catholic Church. I can relate to this by sharing how my current partner has overcome the trauma of being molested by her biological father when she was a child. She has shared that for a long time she felt guilty and shameful about those circumstances. Today, however, after therapy and doing some work on herself emotionally, she helps other women in recovery deal with those same traumas and help them come to solutions. Thank you.